Hi, it's Maija here. Today with a bookish tag video. I'm going to do the A to Z Bookish Survey, which is quite a quickfire tag. It has questions that correspond to each letter of the alphabet. This is an older tag. It was created by the Perpetual Page Turner, and I will leave a link to her blog post in the description. I recently saw the Problems of a Book Nerd do this on her video, so I decided to do it too because it looked like fun. So let's get started because there are quite a few questions. A. Author you read the most books from? Without counting, I would say it would be Terry Pratchett, since I've read most of his Discworld novels, so that's already over 30 books. B is for the best sequel ever, and for this I chose The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. I chose this one from Hobb, even though I don't think it's my favorite book of hers, because it took me a while to get into the world and the characters and the story of the Liveship Traders trilogy. I didn't really get into the first book in the series until quite later on in the book, but this one was so much more exciting. This is the second book, and it was so captivating since I knew the characters already and had gotten used to them and had gotten to like them. So much happens in this book. This is the best sequel ever. C, currently reading. I'm currently reading The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin, and on my Kindle I'm reading Engraved on the Eye by Saladin Ahmed. D, drink of choice while reading. I like both coffee and tea, but I think I more often drink tea while reading, since I do tend to read later in the day, and if I was drinking coffee I wouldn't fall asleep at all. E, e-reader or physical book. Now I like both, but I prefer physical books. F is for fictional character that you probably would have dated in high school, and this was quite difficult. It would have to be someone geeky, artsy, and a little bit goth, so maybe someone from Gloom Cookie by Serena Valentino and Ted Nafee. G stands for Glad You Gave This Book a Chance, and for this I chose The Book of Phoenix by Nnedi Okorafor. This was a surprise for me since I didn't really care for Lagoon, which is the only other of her novels that I have read, so I didn't think Okorafor's writing was for me, but I'm glad I gave this one a chance. H, Hidden Gem Book. Courtney Cramrin and The Coven of Mystics by Ted Nafee. This is actually a comic. I, important moment in your reading life. Rediscovering fantasy at the age of 12 by reading Dragonlance and David Eddings' books. J, just finished. From books Sunbolt by Indisar Kanani, and from comics Tokyo Tarareba Girls by Akiko Higashimura. K, kinds of books you won't read. Books set during World War I, Westerns, political thrillers, and psychological relationship thrillers, but give any of those a fantasy twist, and I might be on board of trying them again. L, longest book you've read. This is either The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas or A Storm of Swords by George R.R. Martin. I'm not quite sure which one, since my edition of A Storm of Swords is split into two, and I don't feel like adding the pages up right now. So it's either one of these. Both of these are over 1,100 pages. M, major book hangover, because I couldn't come up with anything. I'm sure there are some recent ones, but for some reason I can't think of them right now. So I chose one from my teens, and that is the final book in the Dragonlance Legends trilogy, The Test of the Twins by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. This gave me quite a big book hangover as a teen. N, number of bookcases that you own. Now I only own this one double bookcase that is filled with books, but I do have one smaller one over there, but it's mostly DVDs and games, even though it has a shelf of my comics and some of my art books. O, one book you read multiple times. The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. P, preferred place to read. I don't really have one, which is quite sad. It used to be my armchair when I still had it, and if I can get around to buying another armchair somewhere in the future, that will probably be my favorite place again. Q is for quote that inspires you or gives you all the feels from a book you've read. And I'm not really a quotes person. I might come across a great quote that I like a lot while I'm reading a book, but I can't really remember them afterwards. One thing that right now comes to my mind is from The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin, and it's simply no voting on who gets to be people. R is for reading regret, and I couldn't come up with anything. S is for series you started and need to finish in series that have all the books out in the series. And I chose 3 series that I only have the final book still unread. And those are Susan Cooper's The Dark is Rising series, Rachel Bach's Paradox series, and Octavia E. Butler's Patternist or Seed to Harvest series. T, 3 of your all-time favorite books. Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice, and Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. U, unapologetic fangirl for The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. V, very excited for this release more than all the others, The Monster Baru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. W is for worst bookish habit. If I say that I'm going to read something, then I don't want to read it anymore. Also, keeping on renewing my library books endlessly. X marks the spot. Start at the top left of your shelf and pick the 27th book. So, if I go from the top shelf and continue to the left, I get to The Dragons of Autumn Twilight, the first book in the Dragonlance Chronicles by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. But when I start from my top shelf and go left and then go down, I get The Virtue by Sarah Monette, the second book in the Doctrine of Labyrinth series. Y, your latest book purchase. For physical books, that is the Chrysalids by John Wyndham, which was on sale for under €5 on the Book Depository. And for ebooks, it is Witch World by Andre Norton, which was a Kindle Countdown deal. It's a classic fantasy from the 60s. And finally, Z stands for Z Snatcher book. Last book that kept you up way late. I couldn't think of a recent one because I have to admit that I have stayed up late for no reason at all recently, so a book hasn't kept me awake. I would be awake anyway until ridiculous times during the past month or so. So that was the A to Z Bookish Survey. If you're ever on the mood for a quickfire tag to do, this is a fun one. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in my next one. Bye!